everyone, I'm Lizzie with Elizabeth Couch Photography. I'm a wedding photographer based in Fort Worth, Texas, and I want to welcome you to my wedding planning video blog. In this series of blogs, I will be featuring vendors from all over DFW to offer advice and tips and general guidelines that you should take into consideration when you are planning your own wedding. Today's guest was Jessie Craig from According to Plan Wedding Planning. So here it is. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
I want to talk a little bit about what you do, what you offer couples as well. But if you would please first tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in this industry.
Sure. So I started from a personal experience. I got engaged in 2014 and did not have the budget for a wedding planner, so I had to figure everything out on my own.
Yeah.
It took a ton of time.
As it often happens.
Yeah, exactly. It took a ton of time, ton of research to figure out everything that was involved. And so through that process, I kind of realized that I had a passion for this. After we got married, my husband really kind of pushed me into starting my own business. It wasn't really something that was ever on my radar, but I started helping friends and family members with their weddings and realized that I could probably do this. And so in January 2017, actually 3 years ago, I started my wedding planning business. So.
And what's your favorite part about helping couples?
Oh man, there's so many good parts, but honestly, at the end of the wedding day, a lot of my couples come up to me and give me a hug and tell me how everything went fabulously, and they were so happy that they hired me because they had such a good wedding day. And that's really the payoff from this is I get to share that experience with these lovely couples that have such a great wedding. So,
and if you had to tell these couples, like when you first get engaged, the things that they should do first, and I know we've been talking about 3 points, 3 things that they should do first. If you want to walk us through those 3 things.
Yeah, absolutely. So in my opinion, the first thing is to figure out your budget. Your budget's going to dictate a lot about your wedding, and you want to make sure that you account for things accordingly so that you don't way blow over your budget or you end up with not having enough money for certain things. And so I think budget is really important to figure out first. The second thing I feel like every couple should do is to find their venue. And once you have the venue you like, then you can pick from the dates that they have available. Some couples like to pick a specific date. Maybe it means something to them, particularly. But when you do that and then you're trying to find a venue that has that date available, especially if it's a popular date, you can struggle to find a venue and you may end up with something that you don't necessarily love because that's the only one that had that date available.
So it's you want to have that little bit of wiggle room.
Right, in my opinion. I think that's the way you should do it.
I agree.
And then the third thing I think throughout the whole process is you just need to remember and bring yourself back to the fact that this is your and your spouse's day. That everybody's going to have an opinion. They're going to want to share it with you because they want to help you. Your friends and family are trying to be there, trying to give you advice, which is great. But it may not always be what you want. And so you can politely accept their advice, but that doesn't mean that you have to implement it. And so making sure that you two are getting what you want out of your day is really what it comes back to. You get to be selfish for this time frame. So exactly.
Yeah, but that's really neat. And we were talking about how it's nice to have someone who has your back because stuff will and can go wrong. Like sometimes not in like a disastrous way or anything, but nothing ever goes according to plan.
No, right.
I said it. And so it's nice to have someone to go to, and we as photographers, and we talked about this earlier off camera, but it's nice to know when things are happening and to have someone there that kind of guides, in TV land they call it the rundown, but has this run of show and how things are supposed to go, when things are supposed to go. That's so helpful for not just the wedding people, party or whatever, but also the vendors.
Sure, absolutely. Everybody needs to be very familiar with what's supposed to happen, and then if anything has to change during the day, somebody has to communicate to them. So having someone like myself as a coordinator on the day of, I kind of help manage that timeline and communicate with people like you, a photographer, to make sure that you know where to be and when, especially if something changes.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is like your offerings. I know that you have different kinds of, I guess, levels of help that you provide.
Sure.
If you want to walk me through those.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have 3 main packages, although I can create custom packages if needed. But I have a full planning package, which is basically everything you need to plan your wedding. So it's typically for couples that don't know where to start, or maybe don't have a lot of spare time to be able to do a lot of things, or really just maybe aren't very organized.
Yeah.
So you need somebody there kind of telling you what's the next step. And so I have that, and that goes from whenever you hire me all the way through the wedding day. My partial planning package is for couples that have maybe a few things under their belt. They might have their venue, a couple of vendors, maybe an idea of how they want things, but aren't really sure what the next step is in the process. And so I'll come in at that point and kind of help figure out where the next items are, give you a checklist, I'll give you a budget tool to use, and that goes all the way through the wedding day as well. And then my last one is wedding day management. A lot of people refer to it as day of coordination. It starts well before the day.
Yeah, for sure.
So mine starts about 2 months prior to the wedding day. So it involves an overall details meeting. We'll do a venue visit. I'll help create a timeline for the day for you and share that with the vendors. On the day of, I set up and break down your decor, anything that any other vendor doesn't already do. And then I help manage the day and run the timeline, and like we talked about, communicate with all the vendors throughout the evening to make sure we're all on the same page with everything.
Yeah, that's so important because you have to have an idea of how it all goes. But if you've never gotten married before, never have been part of the wedding industry or whatever, you may not know like what needs to happen at what time and all that. So then you can help people put that timeline together, and that's really great. And for those DIY couples, we talked a little bit about how off camera about how sometimes wedding coordination services are seen more like a luxury, but they are really a necessity, right?
They can be, absolutely. There's, for most planners, they have their planning packages like I described, and then they have their day of or wedding day management, whatever they refer to it as. Not everybody can afford a planner, and I totally get that. People do have the ability to plan their own wedding. It takes a lot of time and a lot of energy, but you can do it if you need to. But exactly, a lot of spreadsheets. But somebody to be there on the day of, and even a little bit leading up to it, to kind of make sure you have all your I's dotted and T's crossed. You really need that person. But on the wedding day, you can be the most A-type personality person ever, be so organized and have everything planned. But you're not going to be able to enjoy your day if you're the one trying to run it as the bride or the groom or whatever. And if you end up having a family member, a friend, or your mom, I know a lot of times mother of the brides get stuck with a lot of stuff. They're going to miss things about your wedding day if they're the ones that are in charge to run things. They're going to, make sure all the vendors are there and set up. If they're in charge of food, then they are absolutely going to miss your ceremony because they're having to do all that while you're getting married. So I think a lot of couples don't realize what all goes into it and what all people will miss if it's a friend or family member that's doing that job instead of being a part of your day. And so I really find it in your budget if you can to hire a coordinator.
I agree with that, just because there's so much, and there has to be someone other than the couple that kind of manages
all
that.
Absolutely.
So, that's a good tip. But this is really kind of the goal of this blog, to just kind of give these kinds of tips for people that are in search for their vendors or just doing everything themselves. But stay tuned for more blogs like this. But before we go, if you want to tell people where they can find you and contact you.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now I'm on Facebook at According to Plan DFW. I'm on Instagram, according to, as in the number, plan _ DFW. And then you can also contact me via email at accordingtoplandfw@yahoo.com.
Alrighty, well, thank you for joining me, and everybody also thank you for joining us, and just stay tuned for more of these wedding video blogs. Bye, guys.